Do you have a spider? I don't like it.
Look at
Aw.
him. He's so cute.
Oh, it's
He's not.
Is-
I'll name some cute things, Heather. Puppies are cute. Zebras are cute. Presidential campaigns, adorable. Hello, Internet, and welcome to Zombie Banana Spiders. I'm Colin, and with me today are.
Hillary.
And Heather.
All right, great. Welcome to the podcast. This is our inaugural show, and today and all throughout October, we're going to be talking about horror and spooky stuff and things that scare us. And we thought it would be great to start our first episode off with a little introduction and just introduce you, the viewers, to us, the speakers. So we're going to go around and give a little introduction about who we are, what we do, how we got into horror, and what we like about it. So we'll kick it off over to you, Heather.
Alrighty. How I got into horror. I was thinking about this, and there's actually two things that I don't know if they're related, if we want to do, like, deep dive, psychological, like, whatevers. But the first thing, what it sort of is, my completely unrequited love for Stephen King. So I can't remember exactly when it happened, like when it started. It was before I was in 8th grade. But sometime like junior high, a little bit maybe earlier than that. There was this part of our public library, and I guess I should say I lived in the public library. Like, it was my second home. If you couldn't find me anywhere, that's where I was. And there was this one part of our public library. It was on the second floor. And there was just this tiny little nook. And there was one chair in it. There was a wall on this side. And there was a bookcase on this side. And then there was a bookcase behind. So it was this tiny little nook. There was only room for one chair. And it was a bright orange chair. And I would always go there. I would go and sit in that nook to read, because then I could eat candy bars. And the library staff would not catch me, because the only way you could see into that nook is if you walked right past, and I could hear people coming. So it was a perfect stealth mission, because I liked eating candy and reading books. So I would always sit back there. And the bookcase that was on this side, there were books. Like, it wasn't the back of a bookcase. There was a bookcase facing into my nook. And that was where they kept the Stephen King books. And I don't know why. Like, if they ran out of room in other parts of the library and it's like, we have no more room, we'll just shove the Stephen King books back there. Or if they were like, we know people like them, but we don't condone Stephen King.
Isn't that the horror section? Like,
Was
that
it?
was just
it
the horror section.
I only
I
remember
think
the
so.
So okay. So maybe that was their feeling on horror. I don't know. Like,
So you had a horror nook all to yourself.
I did. And
That's
I didn't
awesome.
start off reading the horror stuff. Like, I would just bring books there to read. But I don't remember, because I don't even remember what the first Stephen King book was that I read. Like, it's gone. But I just remember there was, right kind of like at eye level as you were sitting, there were shelves, like 3 shelves of Stephen King books. And something got me intrigued. And so I started reading, and he was the first author that I decided I am going to read everything that this man has written. And
I still haven't decided that on anybody. To be honest.
And I don't know why. I don't know what I wish I could say, yes, it was this book or this story or this character that spoke to me. I cannot remember. The only thing I remember for sure is that Mom did not want me reading The Stand because she thought it was too scary. So she said, I could read The Stand, but I had to wait until I think it was the summer after my 8th grade year. Like I could read it over the summer. Like she wanted me to wait. What she didn't know is that I watched the Stand miniseries at my friend Danielle's place like years before that.
Dun, dun.
So sorry, Mom, if you're watching this. But like, so that's the like I remember that being specifically like, okay, I waited until the summer after my 8th grade year. That's when I read The Stand. But I had been reading Stephen King for years at that point. I don't know why she put the kibosh on The Stand and nothing else.
And then that year, she set a specific deadline for you. Like you will be mature enough to read about Mother Abigail driving a remote control lawnmower around at this point in time. So that's great.
I don't know what it is. Like, what's some magical well of maturity? You drink from after your 8th grade year. But that was the point.
Yeah.
I remember I tried to do a book report on Stephen King in 6th grade, and I was going to do Eyes of the Dragon, so it wasn't even like the worst one.
Yeah.
And my teacher wouldn't let me, but then she let another girl in class do Carrie, and I don't appreciate that.
That is some bad teaching right there. That's terrible.
I think she did it because she knew I would read something else, and this other girl wasn't super into reading, but still.
Yeah.
That's
crazy.
I feel like at that point, though, like, I totally get the whole, like, yes, encouraging people to read if they're not super into reading, but, like, Carrie... Eyes of the Dragon.
She'd never read Eyes of the Dragon. She only knew it was Stephen King.
She probably was like, Carrie, oh, that's about a girl. Eyes of the Dragon has eyes in it. Oh, no. Something crazy like that. I can judge this book by its cover. That's wild. So, Heather, my question for you is, what candy were you sneaking into the library? Like
Reese's Peanut Butter Cups.
That's a good
exclusively.
Choice. That's a good choice.
And what I don't understand about my younger self is that it was always the full-sized ones. Like it was never the minis. Like you'd think, like, you'd sneak in minis. You just pop it in your mouth, and then you could like pretend you weren't chewing if anybody walked by. But like, no, I had to get the normal-sized ones.
But you got to think about funding. The normal sized ones you can buy for like $1.50, but the minis come in bags that are like $3.
That's true.
Plus, if you put the minis in your pocket, they will melt into a gooey, nasty mess. Like the other ones are nice and flat. You can slide them in a book bag or hollow out a book, like a big old Steve King book, and put them in there. Like it's the perfect crime. If you're going to commit a crime, go big or stay home. Like, that's all there is to that,
That is true. That is true. I'm glad my younger self was like clearly thinking along those lines.
Yep. So how has your Stephen King read them all journey? How's that gone since 8th grade or whatever?
Pretty good. I have not read everything that he has written. I was keeping up pretty well, but then he wrote The Cell.
Yes.
And I read that, and I probably read it twice.
Do you know when that was published?
I don't, but I can look it up because I have the internet.
2006, maybe? Somewhere in there, the early 2000s.
I was talking about The Cell the other day because it reminded me of this movie Pulse. Anybody seen Pulse?
Oh, yeah. Yep, Japanese and American versions, yes.
I feel like I've heard of that. I've heard of it.
Yeah.
2006.
Okay. Wes Craven did the American version. 2006 also.
Oh,
So potentially, but yeah, so the Japanese version was probably before that. So it's just, I guess it all happened at the same time.
It makes me
It's
wonder.
similar ideas.
mhm.
It makes me wonder, and I can't remember if we may have been talking about this, us or like me and Hill or me and Colin at one point, but like that the is zeitgeist, is that the right word?
Mhm.
But like
Yeah.
the fear of the times, or the interest of the times, because one of the books that I would like to recommend later on is
Mhm.
like a post-apocalyptic book, very much in vein of The Stand, but it's nuclear holocaust as opposed to a plague. But they
Okay.
both came out at like basically the same time. And so
Mhm.
like both of these authors, like they were clearly writing these at the same time. Whether or not they talked to each other or knew about the project that the other one was working on, I don't know. But and I don't know if that's the case for like The Cell and Pulse, if it was like a one of those things where it's like, technology is looming large, everybody has a
Mhm.
cell phone. We hadn't quite reached the point in like pop culture history where everybody had a phone. You had to have a phone in order
Mhm.
to exist. And so it just makes me wonder.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think in terms of like post-apocalyptic stories, people are always writing those. It's just something that everybody's always afraid of constantly. But yeah, I mean, being afraid of what technology can do is also a theme that um, reoccurs.
Hmm. Look all the way back to like Frankenstein, like
Mm.
I'd say the original novel, but there's not too much sciency bits in that, but especially like the early movies, the 32 version, it's like, you know, what can we do? Like what kind of crazy stuff and how's it going to kill us? You know, I'm just looking forward to like, I think AI kind of stuff, like everybody does, oh, AIs can kill us as they're becoming more and more prominent. But like, I want to see the self-driving car horror movie. Like, that's the one I want to see. Somebody's like the terror, you
Stephen King
know.
did it already.
I know, I know. Well, then I want to go back further. I want to see if somebody like some obscure text has like a spiritually possessed wagon in like the 1870s. And people are like, "Holy crap, this wagon's gonna kill us." That would be great. So
That would be.
terrific. So I'm glad to hear that the Stephen King thing has gone on. Would you say then, Heather, that Stephen King is kind of what made you a horror fan? Would you call yourself a horror fan? Like, where do you think you lie on that spectrum there?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
This is something else I was thinking about, because
Mhm.
for again whatever reason, and we can talk about it. I love Stephen King,
Mhm.
but I don't know that like there haven't been really many other authors that write horror specifically that I have consciously sought out. Like, I love the classics,
Mhm.
but honestly, like I mean, we read them in school, but I loved them because Stephen King talked about them, and like I
Mhm.
read Salem's Lot, and
Mhm.
so the parallels with Dracula. And I don't know that he's done like a parallel Frankenstein, but like there are things you could find. So I feel like he was even though we read those books in school, he was kind of my gateway drug into horror.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I wasn't like, okay, I really like Stephen King. What other horror authors can I find?
Mhm.
But at the same time, that being said, like, I really like zombies. I love zombies. I love reading about them. For whatever reason, I don't necessarily. I like zombie movies. I never
Mhm.
really got into The Walking Dead, and now the internet hates me. But I love reading about zombies. I need to read The Walking Dead was a graphic novel first, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I need
Yep.
to read
Series
it.
of comic books.
Um, and then I guess I don't. This is something else that I'd love us to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Because sort of the other thing, so there's Stephen King, and then there's my love of John Douglas.
Okay.
And John Douglas was a FBI profiler. He's the guy who he basically not invented, but he founded the FBI profiling unit at Quantico. The Clarice Starling's boss in Silence of the Lambs, that character was based on John Douglas. There's a TV show that I always forget the name of. That it's a profiling.
Isn't it Mindhunters?
Mindhunters, like that was his book. He's written a book called Mindhunters. So he was sort of the other.
I think that's a show too.
Yeah. Like that show was based on that book of his that he wrote.
Gotcha.
And so that's kind of like the other end of horror that I am interested in, which is much more realistic because he profiles serial killers like Ted Bundy and like people who really exist. And so I think like that's the other end of horror that I am interested in, and that also kind of happened around the same time, maybe a little bit later, because one of my best friends was reading the Mindhunters book, and like while we were in high school, and John Douglas came to our town. He was giving a talk at the university in our town, and she went to see him, and she was really interested in him, so I wanted to know more about it too, and we'd have more to talk about and stuff, so I started looking into his stuff. And interestingly, I think Mindhunters, I could be wrong, I can't remember the name of the book that because he's written like one non-fiction book that I believe the TV show is based on, but then he's written he's written one fiction book. That's the one that the TV show is based on, but then he's written a bunch of non-fiction, and I actually like his non-fiction better than his fiction. So yeah, like I don't know what to call myself. I enjoy very much certain types of horror. So I guess, yeah, I think I'm a horror.
You don't have to like every aspect of horror.
I guess
I'm not super into creature features.
Yeah. Everybody's different. Everybody's got different tastes, likes and dislikes. And I think as a genre, that's something that I like about horror and sci-fi and fantasy, is that there's so many different aspects of it. And you can it's like a buffet. You can take what you like and leave the rest, you know? So, but yeah, I definitely think, I mean, I don't know. I would say you're probably a horror fan because you just said you read a ton of Stephen King, who I know that's not all he does, but that's his bread and butter. You like zombie movies and you like, serial killers. That's at least horror adjacent, I think. So, So I think that's awesome.
I guess I just never thought about myself as a horror fan. Like, that's like I'm a Stephen King fan, and it's like the idea, and I don't like the idea, because I know Stephen King is not for everybody, and I don't like the idea, the people like saying, oh, like, how can you call yourself a horror fan and not like Stephen King? I mean, he's one author in, a plethora of authors. So I guess I just sort of never thought of myself as a horror fan because I really only identify that one particular author. But then, like I said, I mean, I love zombies, and so that's I can't get enough.
It's all right, dude. That's all right. How about you, Hillary? Why don't you tell us about yourself and how you got into horror and what you like?
Well, I am Heather's sister, in case that was not apparent. Younger sister. Okay. And honestly, what I remember getting into horror was there wasn't a whole lot to do in the town that we grew up in. And so in high school, I would go to Family Video and I would rent a bunch of horror movies that were either straight to DVD or didn't come to theaters in Macomb or whatever. So I would then just take those home and watch them. And I watched a lot of bad movies, but I also found some really fun movies. And then I started watching the commentary, which is actually for low budget horror movies, I find more entertaining than some of the actual movies. So that's just something that I would do for fun in high school. And I don't know. I've always loved Halloween. Mom always made a big deal about Halloween, so that was always a fun time of year, and that's around my birthday, so that was always fun. And I like being scared, and I think that that's what, like, in a controlled environment, obviously. What it's horror, the type that actually scares me is the safe kind, I guess. The kind that I like to consume is the safer kind. Like the serial killer horror is fun and I enjoy that sometimes, but yeah, you have to be in the right mood for that because that's the type of horror that kind of makes you feel gross. And the type that I like are like gothic horror ghost stories. That's what I enjoy. But I enjoy zombie movies too. But I also, I don't know if I'm being too all over the place, but I find zombie movies more tragic than scary. And actually, I was curious, and I don't know if you guys want to talk about this right now or not, but does Stephen King scare you, Heather? Because I don't remember him actually ever scaring me. The Stand, when I watched The Stand, it scared me the first half with the plague. And when I watched it, I was 5, and it scared
Mom.
me. I already told her that. I watched it when it was on TV because Mom and Dad were watching it, and I would stand at their bedroom door and like watch at the doorway, and then they'd catch me and be like, "Go away!" And I went away for like 5 minutes, and then I'd come back and watch it. But the clown scared me, and for some reason, my takeaway from that one was fear of showers and like bathrooms, not fear of clowns. But but the books I don't remember ever really scaring me. But I mean, I haven't read as many as you have either.
I don't remember, and this is definitely something that we could talk about more of. I don't remember being scared. There have been certain stories, and more often than not, it's his short stories, where it's not like I'm scared. It's like he punches me in the gut, and it hurts, and I'm sad, and like it's there's this one short story that I'm thinking of in particular that was like, it's still, I think about it just at odd times. But yeah, I don't remember ever being scared. When I saw The Stand, the plague part scared me. I was not scared of Randall Flagg. Like that's what scared Mom. And so
I'm afraid of his haircut.
In the book, though, she was scared of him in the book. She wasn't scared of him in the movie or the miniseries.
Yeah. But I wasn't scared of him in the book either. But yeah,
I mean, I get it, Heather. Like, you hit an emotional plateau at the summer after 8th grade. But if you had read that before, you would have been terrified. I get it.
Yep.
I don't think Stephen King has ever scared me, but I was older when I started reading Stephen King's stuff. And you're right, Heather. I find it more, and Hillary with the zombie movie thing, I find it more like tragic. Like when Stephen King's stock bullies show up, I'm not like, oh my God, I'm terrified. I'm like, ugh, what are these guys going to do?
I think he's really good at getting like portraying humanity, and like he's very good at likable characters, and very like getting you to like the characters very quickly. And then he's very good at like building disbelief. So it starts out and it's kind of weird, but not too weird, and then so you accept little weird things, and then it starts building up and building up until you get cosmic turtles and giant spiders and things.
Interlocking tongues for the fate of the universe. Yeah. Steve, no kink shaming here, brother. Whatever you're into, well, that's fine. Okay.
And that is why it's incredibly difficult, nay impossible, to translate his books to movies.
Yeah. Well, it's also because he takes his time. He takes his time to get you to where he wants you to go. So, like, he can build up suspense and he can build up disbelief in a way that you can't in a movie that's only even it, like, which is together is like what, 6 hours, 6+ hours. It had some issues because it didn't have enough time to build up what it needed to.
I agree with that.
I think.
I agree completely. Yeah. Tell me though, how great would that second part of that movie been if the space turtle and the spider had a big makeout session at the end? Like, that would have made it. I know the audiences would check out, but I feel like that's a movie tailor-made for me. Like, I'd want to see it.
I'd be like, wait, did I black out for a second? Am I in the same movie?
So, Hillary, what back to what you were saying about you were watching like cheesy horror and stuff. Do you have any like standout movies or anything that you remember watching that you're like, oh yeah, this cements it. Like I am into this genre, or I love this kind of stuff. Any standouts for you?
Well, my test on how, like, what I consider a great horror movie, and I know that people will disagree with me on this because whatever, but if it gives me nightmares, then I consider it a good horror movie. So let's see, the last movie that I can remember giving me nightmares was The Woman in Black, and then that and the book gave me nightmares too. And then Resident Evil. I used to be terrified of zombies, and now I think I'm desensitized. But yeah, Resident Evil twice. I watched it twice, and it gave me nightmares to the point where I was like locking my door and my bedroom door and like having a weapon because I was like, nobody's getting me. Nobody's getting me.
Was this the first of the what, Paul W.S. Anderson Resident Evil movies? The Mila Jovovich movies? Yep. Okay, right on. What was your weapon of choice? Inquiring minds want to know.
Well, my dad had a lot of staffs hanging out around the house, so I just grabbed one of his staffs and like locked myself in my bedroom.
Sweet, that's awesome. Getting a little Donatello rage on whatever.
There is nothing wrong with being prepared.
Whatever works. Uh-oh.
We lost Colin.
Oh, no.
Okay. Are we still recording?
Yep.
Okay, great. Don't edit anything in post, Heather. Everything
Nope, everything's going in.
Everything stays. All right. So, as far as me being a horror fan, when I was very young, I was a real scaredy cat. Like, I was afraid of everything, like literally everything. I was like Chucky from Rugrats, if you remember that. Yeah. So my dad, I wouldn't say he's a big horror fan, but he had like Universal monster movies taped off of TV and stuff like that. And I remember watching those, and I remember being terrified in The Mummy when Boris Karloff is getting mummified alive and they bury him alive, and like stuff like that would always make me cry. But it wasn't until much later, when I was in probably first or second grade, that I started to get into the Goosebumps book series. And I credit that with turning me into a lifelong horror fan. As I don't know what happened. I don't know if like second grade is my mythical eighth grade summer plateau. I think it was, but I guess I was just ready for them. And once I got my hooks in, I didn't let go. So that started a lifelong love of horror. I'd always liked science fiction and fantasy as well, but suddenly I was super into monsters, ghosts, UFOs, anything I could get my hands into. Um, Around fourth or fifth grade, the X Files came out on TV, and I was a huge fan of that. I loved like horror adjacent stuff like cryptids, Bigfoot, and the other, Loch Ness monster, the Mothman, all that kind of stuff. And as a teenager, I was big into like slasher movies, and then the really disturbing, like hard, like weird European horror stuff, like Necromantic and a bunch of other movies I don't recommend anybody ever watch. But yeah, so and then now I just it's like I said, horror, fantasy, sci-fi. It's like a big passion of mine. I'm rarely seeking out other forms of media that aren't a part of like those various genres. I mean, I do. I'll watch like comedies and stuff, but generally speaking, I'm like laser focused in on all that kind of stuff. So that's pretty much where I'm at with the horror stuff. I like it. I'm an artist. I draw a lot of horror stuff, so that's fun. But it's really how I got into it. So thanks, R.L. Stein, for your Goosebumps series. That was a great stepping stone for me into it. So good times.
Are you team Are You Afraid of the Dark or team Goosebumps?
If you're talking about the TV shows, I have to go with Are You Afraid of the
Mm.
Dark? I gotta give it up. It's that intro, does it scared me when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Scared my brothers to the point
Yeah.
where my mom wouldn't let me watch it because they were scared, because that's fair. Um, but I do like the Goosebumps TV show. I think it's good, cheesy fun, but I like that when I watch the Goosebumps TV show, I compare every episode to the book it's based on, and I'm like, the book was better. With Are You Afraid of the Dark, they're all original stories, so you can kind of watch them as their own thing, if that makes sense.
True.
True. How about you, Hillary? Where are you falling on that kids horror anthology TV show spectrum?
Well, I'm definitely team Are You Afraid of the Dark. The acting is pretty horrible in both series, but there were a couple episodes, and really we only saw a couple episodes when we were young because we didn't have cable.
Okay.
But the one where the kid stole like a compass and the pirates came out of the sea to get it back or something like that. That one creeped me out.
Yeah, you had the one where the woman was in the crypt, you were saying.
It was the urban legend where the girl got hit by a car on the way to the prom, and her date never came, or her date got in a car accident or whatever. So that was like the two that I saw when I was young, and they both freaked me out because those were pretty decent, I thought. But Goosebumps was always just cheesy.
Yeah.
Did you know that they did a movie, Are You Afraid of the Dark revival movie last year, apparently?
Yep, it was like a limited series. It was like 3 episodes that together make one movie, but I haven't seen it yet. Have you guys? Have you seen that yet? Was it good?
Yeah, actually,
I want to watch it.
Where was it?
It was a lot of fun.
Awesome. Yeah, where did you watch that?
I didn't know it existed until we moved here and we went to Walmart and it was there. And I was like, I didn't know this was a thing. And mom was like, well, happy moving in. And so we watched it, and the acting was good. Like, they amped it up. They did a really good job. Um,
I
so
swear
That's
that
definitely check it out.
Walmart, like,
Yep.
you can find the most amazing things at the Walmart in the town we grew up in.
It's true. It's true. It's like, so whoever orders their DVDs is into the exact same stuff that I'm into, because
Oh, that's
half
awesome.
the time I can find things that struggle to find, like on Amazon
Hmm.
sometimes. Like, Willow was not available. I had to pay a ridiculous amount for Willow, and then like a month later it was at Walmart on Blu-ray.
Hmm.
Thanks. I had to order it from, like, I think the language on the covers in Japanese or something, because I couldn't find it in the United States.
Willow, of all movies, could not be found on DVD in the U.S. That's
It must have been just in this like small window of time, and then everybody
yeah,
was like, "Oh yeah, remember Willow? We want Willow."
yeah. Willow's great. It's one of the best fantasy movies. Oh, that's
Agreed.
awesome. That Walmart sounds amazing because every time I go to mine, even if it's like the Halloween movie celebration, it's like 47 DVDs of like, I don't know, like what name a kid show? Caillou, a Caillou Halloween. I'm like, who is this for? Who in God's name wants this? And
Oh,
judging
that's
by when
too
I show up
bad.
November 1st, nobody, because they still have all of their copies left. So
Yeah.
that sounds pretty great. Pretty great. So, do you guys want to
Yeah.
get into our picks of the week, our recommendations, or our, any other last thoughts we want to give?
Sure.
Recommendation sounds good.
All right.
Yeah.
Um, I'll go first, I guess. My recommendation for this week is the Universal The Black Cat, starring Bela Lugosi and Boris Karloff. It's based on the Edgar Allan Poe short story in the same way that, like, Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark, the musical, is based on Stephen King's book Cell, as in there's people in both. So, The Black Cat. It's great. Bela Lugosi plays a rare role where he's like the hero, but he's also kind of like this insane dude who's traveling to a chateau in Europe where Boris Karloff holds a cult. And Boris Karloff killed his Lugosi's wife and child years ago. And it's nuts. Great. 60 minutes, you're in, you're out. Somebody gets skinned alive at the end. Great movie. Five
Cool.
stars. Check it out. So that's my recommendation for
Nice.
the week.
So
Cool.
my recommendation, oh, it's backwards, but uh, is Blood Gnome. This is one that I discovered through my process of renting straight to DVD movies,
Mhm.
and it is, boy, it's a journey. Um, it's it's a journey that maybe should only be taken once every 10 years, because it it's a micro budget movie. Um,
Mm.
there's puppets. There's it actually. All jokes aside, this is one of the first movies that I've seen that has opened a discussion about uh, like BDSM in a healthy way,
Okay.
and so I found it interesting. And I actually there it's a 3 disc thing that I got,
Oh.
speaking of compilations, but there's actually special features on this. So I got to see a featurette of the making of Blood Gnome, and also there was a full-length feature commentary with the main character and the director writer. And it was very interesting, and that's why I think that the commentary is sometimes even more entertaining than the the actual movie, because they're so enthusiastic and it's wonderful. Like, you get to see that everybody really excited about a project that, and they recognize that it could have been carried out a little bit better, but
Mm.
it's I don't know. It's I keep coming back to it because I watched it for the first time I think in high school, and then I watched it again in college, and now I own it. So
Great.
that is I don't know what I would rate it because it's not a good movie, but it definitely is something. It's an experience that maybe some people will find worthwhile.
Mhm. That's perfect. I know I want to see it.
And it makes me wonder if we should come up with like two separate like rating systems, whereas like, you know, good, but then like
Yeah.
how much we would recommend it or like we think it's worthwhile, because like
Yeah.
so many things I've read of people writing about horror, like books or movies or whatever, have said kind of what you were saying, Hill, that you know there's a lot of schlock out there, but then
Yeah.
you find just awesome gems. And like for the people that I've read, you know, talking about this, it's that all wading through everything is worth it for those gems. And so it's like you recognize that it didn't have a big budget, it wasn't the best acted, it wasn't really that well made, you can see the zipper, but it's still worthwhile. And
Well,
that's kind
yeah,
of what I
definitely.
love.
Definitely, and I definitely have more. I'm more understanding and sympathetic towards lower budget films, and I'm more demanding. I expect more of higher budget films, and that's
Mhm.
why I don't usually go out to theaters anymore because
Mhm.
it's. I'm usually disappointed in what I'm watching because
Mhm.
something has fallen through the cracks
Mhm.
in higher budget films. Most of for me most of the time.
Mhm.
Um, but it was interesting with listening to the commentary on this because the poor main actor also helped build the set. He also cooked meals. He also what they're puppets in this movie. If I hadn't mentioned they're puppets,
Mhm.
and he was a puppeteer at one point. He was everything pretty much, and it sounded like everybody did everything on this movie. And he by the end of it, they were like, "Oh, it was method acting. He was so exhausted, and we needed him to play this exhausted, like
Mhm.
going crazy person, and he did it really well because he was actually exhausted on only 2 hours of sleep." And it was like, yeah, because he was doing everything.
Mhm. That's
So,
amazing, man.
yeah, it's just I don't know. It's a lot of fun to see the behind the scenes on stuff like this for me.
No, I agree. Definitely. That sounds great. So I definitely want to pick that up and I want to see that. And it looks like it's sliced on that DVD cover as well.
It's spliced,
Sliced. That's it. Yep.
yeah, and Satan's Little Helper. So we'll
Yep.
see.
Yep.
I haven't seen either of those two.
I have seen both of those two, but not Blood Gnomes.
Fair enough.
Oh man. I love a good like puppet horror movie. Like Satan's Little Helper or any of the even the cheesy like the Ginger Dead Man movies or that kind of stuff. I love it.
This,
So,
yeah, the second one, Ginger Dead Man 2, is pretty because it's so self-aware and it makes fun of itself. It's really
yeah,
fun.
that is awesome. How about you, Heather? What is your go on.
I was just gonna say, like, all of this, it's reminding me what I love about horror movies, and that is watching them with other people.
Yeah.
You know, and having, because I keep thinking, like, oh, I'd love to see this movie, but with you guys. Like, I don't know, I just want to watch it on my own. I would want to watch it with you guys. But
Fair enough.
My recommendation, I think I will go with just this one. I had two that I was going to sneak in.
Okay.
But this one, it's called, I'm getting a glare, Wolf Sour, or The Wolf Sour by Robert McCammon.
Okay.
Werewolf fighting Nazis.
Sold 100%. I'm in.
And the I don't even know how I found this book. I think I was trolling through used bookstores. Like that's what I do, and I just found this, and yeah, it's really well written. Like Robert McCammon, I was just looking him up because I've only read one other book by him, and he's still writing. Like, I had no idea. This was published in the 80s, but he's still around. He's still writing, and he's a very good author. But this is just like, yeah, there are werewolves, and this one is like a secret agent who was recruited by the Allies to fight Nazis. He's probably the son of Rasputin. That in and of itself has nothing to do with him being a werewolf. It's sort of on top of him being a werewolf. But it's great. You get this whole backstory of how he became a werewolf and the whole intricacies of the pack, and then, you know, how werewolves work in this world. No idea how he was recruited by the Allies. Like, that is not explained at all. How they found out about him and why he's helping them. I mean, apart from, you know, it's the right thing to do. You're fighting Nazis, but like, what? So, yeah, fantastic. Not that long for people who don't like really long books, but would very much recommend.
Awesome.
Compared to The Keep.
The Keep.
Are you talking about the Michael Mann
that
film?
one?
I don't know that one.
Well, it's a book as well,
Okay.
and it's... You never read The Keep?
It sounds...
With the vampires and Nazis? The German soldiers go... I don't remember where, but they go to occupy a keep, and there's a vampire in it. Spoiler alert, there's a vampire in it.
I don't remember this, but, like, it's sparking little things, so it makes me wonder if, like, you told me about it, or... But yes, now...
I don't know why I would have read it if you hadn't read it. I don't know who would have... It was... I thought you introduced me to it.
Okay, I'm gonna have to read it now, because this sounds fantastic. I would like to compare them.
It's fun.
Because this is very much... Ooh! And we could even do, like, a thing like, okay, you know, comparatively, how do these two books deal with, you know, their respective monsters in appropriate ways? Like, if the
Who
Keep...
wore it better?
Yeah. Like, if the Keep is all about, you know, creepy gothic castle and vampires are just in this one place and they're picking off Nazis, as opposed to, like, this book goes all over Europe in...
Yeah.
So, ooh, okay.
Yeah, The Keep stays in one place, but The Keep is a series. I've only read the first one.
Ooh, I did not know that.
Oh, yeah,
I'm
6
pretty... Yeah.
novels.
Yeah.
See, that makes me wonder, too, now, because I feel like McCammon sets this up to be a series. There's, like, little things in it that is like, okay, he doesn't explain it in this book, he's gonna explain it at another time. And maybe, like, he did write a sequel to this and I just never heard about it, but as far as I know, it's just one book, but now I have to do extensive research.
Interesting. That sounds great. Yeah. Well, I like both of your recommendations. I definitely want to check both of them out. Like, you guys know how to get your hooks in me quick. You're like BDSM puppet monster horror movie and werewolf fights Nazis. And I'm like, I want both of those things like, right now. Give them to me. Are you guys ready? I have some trivia for you from my amazing Colossal Book of Horror trivia.
Fantastic.
And I've cherry-picked out, because I know you're fans, The Shining 1980. So we're going to rapid fire. Can you get through these? The first bunch of them are really easy. What word does Danny repeat over and over?
Red.
Hillary, 1 point. What is the name of the Colorado resort in the film?
The Overlook.
1 point, Heather. Hillary, you were just too shy on that draw. What vehicle does Danny drive through the corridors of the hotel?
Tricycle.
Hillary, 2 points. Technically a big wheel, but I'm going to give it to you because
that's
that's
what I
three
was trying
words.
to think of. It wasn't coming.
What has Jack Nicholson been writing on page after page?
All work and no play make Jack a dull boy.
You're 2-2. What is Nicholson's most famous line from the film?
Here's Johnny.
Oh, Hillary for 3. What actress plays Nicholson's wife?
Oh, Shelley Duvall.
3. You got it, Heather. Where does Nicholson's character die?
In the maze.
In the maze.
Oh, Heather taking the lead. Oh, crap. Besides Danny, who else possesses the Shining?
Halloran.
Jack.
Well, I'm not sure who went first on that one. You both spoke at the same time. But yes, and you got it, Dick Halloran. Yep. So I'm going to give that to both of you. So Heather, you're still in the lead. There's 2 more left, Hillary. So you gotta, if you want to steal this victory, who directed The Shining?
Kubrick.
Stanley Kubrick.
Heather, you.
I said his full name.
Possessive lead.
She said his full name.
The last one. This is the hard one. What television network remade The Shining as a miniseries in 1997? What was the network it was on?
I don't remember that. I feel like it had to be been CBS or NBC because we watched it, I thought. At home.
Final answers, anybody? Or
no idea.
Hillary, you got it exactly wrong. It was ABC, the third letters. But that's okay. Thank you guys for doing trivia. That was fun.
Of course.
More later. All right.
I'm pretty sure that quote, "Here's Johnny," was ad-libbed too. So that wasn't like he didn't. Yeah, he just did that.
I could see that. And I have to wonder if that was on like take 1 or take like 437 after like 14 hours of filming, you know, because Kubrick had him do like over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So I wonder at what point his mind broke down and he just started doing whatever came to it.
And like how many doors they went through.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Yeah.
That's a good call. All right. Well, if does anybody else have any closing thoughts?
This is really fun. We should keep doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Well, I think this was a good first episode. I had a blast. I'm with you guys, so I guess we'll end it there. For the Zone Banana Spiders podcast, I'm Colin.
I'm Hillary.
I'm Heather.
And we will see you guys on the next one. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.
Yay.
Hooray.
All right, practice run done. Let's do it for real.
All right.